Welcome to Crater Lake number 7, preparing the track. You'll notice first though that there's a bit of wadding on the backside of the layout. When I was trialling it, I found there was a real noise coming out, and what was happening is I'd created this huge echo chamber underneath the layout that was amplifying every sound of the chain and the motors, etc. So anyhow, quick solution, just some of that batting or wadding adhered to underneath, and it was quiet as a mouse after that. So have any problems with any noise, just wrap it up in a bit of wadding. Now to the actual track. We've got a little Pico girder bridge, end-scale girder bridge here, which I was going to incorporate because it's no use having a recreational lake if people can't drive to it. So the bridge is there to get onto the beach aspect. So with the track, similar sort of thing to the rest of the building the cliffs, in as much that the brown paper becomes the base on which we're going to be wrapping plaster. So I've glued down where possible and pinned for some of the lumpy bits to create a texture that I want for it. So as you can see, it goes around there. You'll also notice the white sheets there. That's the double-sided tape ready to take the top of the lake, the acrylic lake. So it's a matter of just measuring out what you need, chopping them up, and just remembering that does shrink a little bit, so allow a little bit more if you're going to do any great number of things. There's nothing worse than having it too short. So get your measurements right to start with. As with the cliff face, lay out all your strips, dunk them in the water for about a minute. Not for a minute, it's about 30 seconds. Just for enough for the plaster to start breaking down. You don't want it too fast, otherwise you have to work it up, and you don't want it too long, otherwise it just goes to slops and just falls off the webbing. So it's a matter of just getting the right balance, right temperature water, and the humidity, I suppose, in your place. So it's a matter of just getting all those aspects together, do a couple of trials, and then once it's laid on, you just lay it over the top and then smooth it with your finger, bringing out the rest of the plaster so it forms a complete bond. And so you just work your way around, layering, pushing into position, and then giving it that good rub to get the plaster activated. If you find that it dries too fast, just a bit of water on your fingers, rub it and massage it up, and you'll find that it all comes together. What you're aiming at is to try and bring all the holes, cover all the holes that are in the webbing. You won't be able to do a perfect job, which is why later we'll show you how we do the plaster of Paris slurry again. But generally speaking, you can work it quite a bit, so there's no major holes in the plaster work. And so we have the whole operation now. We're going around the other end, getting that down, building a bit of the embankment, coming around. We'll be having a beach up there, so we extended a bit. This is the left-hand end of the layout. As you can see, I've sort of scrunched it up ready. The bridge is removed, so I covered it all in plaster bandage to try and get something, a good medium to be able to paint onto at a later stage. Once again, it's just the smoothing, getting the cracks, bending it to the shape that you want, and then just letting it set. Fairly simple, but it's a case of, for someone like me who, as I've said before, I'm not artistic in that, it's a very easy way of creating scenery on your layout. Where the rail ends, if you remember, I said I terminated it here. I was going to do a loop around the back, but it just wasn't practical. So rather than put in another tunnel entrance, so I decided to make it like a cave cut into the rock. So it's just a matter of pinning up a bit of the bandage, and in this case it was activated just by brushing water. So I had a very soft brush that held a lot of water, and I just kept working that in until the plaster started to break down, and then once again just moulded it in. You can leave the pins in until it all dries. Once it adheres to the paper, you can just pull the pins out and away you go. So this was a bit of fun, doing upside down and hanging from the, not me, but hanging the plaster bandage from the roof of the cave. But no, I think it all came together, apart from this little mishap. But at this point in time, you can't go wrong. It's just a matter of mushing things around and getting it going. The loose threads are a pain at times, but if you just activate it when you see it, because you don't want threads in the final product, so they're a bit hard to pull out once the plaster's set. But yeah, the bandages in most cases didn't fray, and it's just a case of just watching for those little strays, because they can be a bugger if you get anything later on sitting in your supposed rock face with a bit of stringer coming out of it. And then finally the slurry, which is just the plaster of Paris mixed with a dash of paint. I'll probably use a different colour, but at this stage I use green. It doesn't really matter. It just sort of helps define the two colours as two applications, so you can see where you haven't covered it. And this is just to cover all the little holes that appear with the bandages, because it doesn't give you 100% coverage, and paint won't fill the holes, so this sort of creates a nice base. And it also, because it was drying so fast, it sort of created like a rough texture to it, which was good. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this little one and have been learning a bit of how to do the scenery. Next episode we'll be laying some track. Catch you then.